Our universe. A canvas of endless stars, gas giants, and swirling nebulae, painted with the meticulous brushstrokes of cosmic order. For countless eons, this grand design was upheld by the Zenith Concord, a sprawling galactic alliance of ancient and unbelievably logical alien races. Imagine this: entire star systems built with mathematical precision, economies that ran on faultless algorithms, and complex disputes resolved with cold, hard data, always leading to the most perfectly calculated, efficient, and utterly predictable outcome. Life within the Concorde was a testament to pure, unadulterated reason. It was calm, it was efficient, and frankly, it was a magnificent, well-oiled machine that at times was also incredibly mind-numbingly boring. Every species in the Concorde had its place, its predictable patterns, its set routines. The Vorlogs, ancient beings of profound wisdom, moved with the deliberate grace of slow-motion chess masters, their multifaceted eyes always gazing 10 steps into the future. They communicated through gentle hums and subtle shifts in their aura, a symphony of quiet contemplation. Their greatest joy was a perfectly balanced quantum equation. The Lumini, ethereal beings of pure, shimmering light, communicated through precise, energy-based mathematical sequences, each flicker a theorem, each glow a proof. They saw the universe as a grand, beautiful spreadsheet, perfectly organized. The Krylax, masters of deep space mining, had production schedules that never ever varied by a single nanogram, their massive drills humming a constant, unwavering tune of efficiency. For uncounted eons, this was the way. Every variable was known. Every outcome was foreseen. There were no surprises, no sudden changes, no random events that couldn't be neatly filed away. Everything simply worked. Then something happened that didn't quite fit into their perfect calculations. We showed up. From a tiny, shimmering blue-green planet called Earth, a new species entered this perfectly ordered galactic society. We were called humans, and we were different. Very, very different. Our arrival was less like a new piece fitting into a puzzle, and more like a vibrant, chaotic splash of neon paint on a pristine, monochromatic canvas. The Concorde's initial reports on us were, to put it mildly, deeply confused, and often included frustrated emoji-like squiggles in their data logs. Subject species exhibits erratic behavior patterns, their official records would state with an almost exasperated tone. Displays irrational emotional responses to trivial stimuli, engages in activities with no logical benefit, possesses a dangerous affinity for jokes that lack coherent meaning, causing significant processing errors in analytical systems. Warning: may cause spontaneous head scratching. They found us. Baffling. Truly wonderfully baffling. Our representative, Ambassador Kira, was perhaps the most baffling of all. Kira wasn't chosen for her political experience, her diplomatic training, or her ability to follow strict protocols. Oh no. She was chosen because she was, in essence, the purest, most concentrated form of the human crazy factor. Kira had once won a national extreme home repair contest by fixing a broken starship's life support system, using only a rubber chicken, a paperclip, and an unshakable belief that anything could be solved with enough determination and a dash of absurdity. She could quote ancient internet memes at will, and often did, even in the most serious of diplomatic meetings, much to the quiet distress of the Vorlags, who'd never heard of a Rickroll. Her diplomatic reports were less about facts and more about the vibe, often filled with cheerful doodles and an excessive number of exclamation marks. And her favorite form of communication was a dramatic, overly enthusiastic, sometimes bone-jarring high five. The Vorlags, who communicated by moving their many tentacles in precise, slow patterns, found the high five both illogical and physically alarming, often flinching away as if expecting a sudden, violent explosion or a sudden demand for high-fructose corn syrup. They are inefficient. Elder Vorlag, the revered head of the Concorde Council, would sigh, his multiple eyes blinking slowly, as if trying to clear a persistent, human-shaped blur from his vision. They are noisy. Their actions defy all our algorithms. Their thinking is fundamentally illogical. We simply cannot predict them. It's like trying to calculate the trajectory of a thrown spaghetti noodle. He once witnessed Ambassador Kira try to explain the concept of irony to a Lumai ambassador. The Lumini's light flickered in distress, its energy field oscillating wildly, unable to compute the contradictory layers of meaning. "It is not what it means." The Lumini would pulse, confused. "It is what it doesn't mean, but does mean, kind of," Kira would insist, laughing, as the Lumini ambassador's light would briefly turn purple, a sign of extreme cognitive overload. Another time, Kira introduced the concept of prank calls to a Krylax mining chief. The Krylax, a creature of absolute, unwavering efficiency, spent 3 entire duty cycles trying to find the logical purpose of such a pointless communication. It eventually filed a formal complaint requesting human call logs to analyze their intentional inefficiency. Humans, it seemed, were a persistent, cheerful, utterly bewildering glitch in their perfectly programmed universe. We laughed out loud at moments the Concord deemed solemn, like during a 17-hour debate on interstellar shipping lanes. We cried tears of pure joy when something good happened, like finding a perfectly ripe avocado. We built things just for fun, like giant neon pink rubber ducks that floated majestically in space, baffling Lumini sensors with their lack of aerodynamic purpose. Or a machine that made perfectly useless, yet oddly beautiful, pancakes out of raw asteroid dust, which Krylax engineers attempted to reverse engineer for optimal waste production. We engaged in extreme sports, where we threw ourselves off tall structures or raced vehicles made of spare parts, all for the sheer, illogical thrill of it. We took selfies in front of crumbling ruins or exploding volcanoes, risking life and limb for a fleeting digital image that would eventually fade into nothingness. The aliens tried to understand us. They ran endless simulations. They built complex AI models to predict our behavior. They failed. Repeatedly. Spectacularly. They were frustrated. Massively so. And we, the humans, just kept being, well, us. The unpredictable, noisy, utterly bewildering human crazy factor. We were the wild card, the loose screw, the random variable in their grand cosmic equation. We were the spontaneous burst of laughter in a silent hall, the unprompted dance in a sterile meeting room, the illogical decision that somehow, inexplicably, worked. And they truly had no idea what to do with us. But they would soon find out that sometimes the biggest weakness, the most illogical variable, can become the greatest, most unexpected strength. And that strength would soon be desperately needed. Very, very desperately. Part 2. The Blight of Illogic descends. The galaxy continued its peaceful, predictable existence, humming along like a well-tuned cosmic clock. The Zenith Concord, confident in its logical superiority, continued to file away human anomalies as minor, irritating data points that caused their supercomputers to occasionally emit a puff of smoke. Elder Vorlog, in his infinite wisdom and endless patience, even proposed a human behavior assimilation program, a fancy term for trying to make us more like them, less like us. Ambassador Kira just suggested they try eating pizza first, especially the pineapple one, just to see what happens. The program, predictably, never really took off. The Lumini couldn't compute the concept of burnt cheese. Then, the calm, logical rhythm of the cosmos was shattered. The galaxy faced a new kind of threat. It was something utterly unlike anything the Concord had ever encountered. Something that defied all their meticulous classifications and combat protocols. It was called the Blight. This was not an enemy fleet, with clear intentions and predictable attack patterns. It was not a virulent biological weapon, whose spread could be charted and contained. It was not a natural disaster, whose energy signatures could be measured and predicted. No, the Blight was illogical itself. It was pure, unadulterated nonsense given physical form. It appeared first as a growing cloud of iridescent mist, shimmering with colors that no known spectrum could identify. It expanded slowly but surely, consuming everything in its path. But it didn't consume in a physical sense. It consumed logic. Wherever it touched, the Blight twisted reality in profoundly irrational ways. A starship's perfect navigation system would suddenly decide the shortest route to its destination was through a black hole, or perhaps through a dimension made entirely of rubber bands that squeaked when you passed through them. Communication channels, usually crisp and clear, would suddenly blare out children's nursery rhymes in ancient dead languages, or play the sound of 1,000 cats arguing over a single tuna can. Advanced energy shields, designed to repel any known force, would flicker and then reshape themselves into giant floating smiley faces, or dissolve into shimmering rainbows that offered no protection whatsoever, only blindingly cheerful colors. The blight defied all logic. It couldn't be calculated. It couldn't be predicted. Its movements were random, its effects absurd. It was like trying to solve a quadratic equation with a rubber chicken that was also singing opera, while juggling flaming bowling pins. It just didn't compute for the highly rational minds of the Zenith Concord. Their advanced algorithms, designed to solve every conceivable problem, simply crashed, burned, and then started producing extremely depressing poetry about cosmic loneliness when faced with the blight's illogical nature. Their centuries of data provided no answers, only error messages, philosophical paradoxes, and sudden cravings for highly illogical snack foods they didn't even have. Their calm, well-established protocols became utterly useless. If a protocol said, engage evasive maneuvers, the ship might instead decide to spin in circles while playing polka music and decorating itself with holographic glitter. Panic, a feeling almost entirely forgotten by the highly logical Concord members, began to ripple through their ranks. Even Elder Vorlag, usually a statue of serenity whose inner peace was legendary across 1,000 systems, now showed clear signs of deep, uncharacteristic stress. His multifaceted eyes would dart around the council chamber, searching frantically for a solution that simply didn't exist in their logical frameworks. His tentacles, usually held in perfect contemplative stillness, would twitch nervously, almost like they were trying to tap dance. He developed a sudden, unexplainable need to categorize dust bunnies. The blight wasn't aggressive in a military sense, but its effects were devastating. Supply lines turned into tangled knots of quantum spaghetti that delivered sentient potatoes to war zones and battle droids to nurseries, where they immediately tried to organize the pacifiers by molecular weight. Defense grids started firing on their own ships, thinking they were giant teacups, or particularly insulting clouds shaped like fluffy bunnies. Entire planets found their atmospheres turning into breathable jelly, leading to mass hilarity and confusion, but also making space travel impossible, and causing everyone to smell vaguely of grape. One Krylax mining world found its entire ore output spontaneously turning into perfectly sculpted miniature replicas of its grand leader, causing an unprecedented economic meltdown and a sudden demand for tiny commemorative statues. The Concord's entire existence was based on absolute order, and the blight was the ultimate inescapable chaos. It was their worst nightmare, a problem that couldn't be rationalized, understood, or solved with pure reason. They had reached the absolute limits of their logic. Elder Vorlog called an emergency session of the Grand Council, the most serious gathering in Concord history. His voice, usually so steady and reassuring, now had a definite, almost imperceptible tremble. "We have exhausted all logical solutions," he announced, his gaze sweeping across the worried faces of the assembled ambassadors. "Our predictive models show only one outcome: systemic failure. The blight is growing. It consumes order. It will consume us all, turning our precise calculations into abstract art and our solemn meetings into impromptu dance parties. What do we do? We have no data for this. No logic applies. Every solution we devise only fuels its illogical growth." The other alien leaders sat in stunned, confused silence. They had no answers. They had no experience with illogical threats. Their brains, finely tuned for absolute order, were simply short-circuiting. Some Lumini ambassadors even started dimming their light in distress, then inexplicably started to flicker in Morse code, spelling out "send snacks." The Krylax, masters of mining efficiency, began to nervously count their mineral reserves, then started arranging them into silly faces, a completely irrational response to an existential threat. The situation was beyond desperate. They needed a breakthrough, something utterly beyond their understanding, something else, something human. Part 3. The illogical solution and a spark of genius. It was then that Ambassador Kira, the human representative, spoke up. She had been quietly observing the frantic, yet ultimately futile attempts by the Concord's best logical minds. She saw their frustrated calculations, their failing algorithms, their complete inability to grasp the pure, absurd, glorious idiocy of the blight. She watched as they tried to apply reason to unreason, like trying to categorize shadows or explain a dream to a spreadsheet. "Perhaps," she said, her voice clear and a little mischievous, a stark, jarring contrast to the heavy despair filling the room. "Perhaps you need something illogical." The other alien scoffed. A stiff-backed Xylos delegate, its body glowing with irritation, pulsed. Illogical actions lead to chaos, Ambassador. We are already in chaos thanks to the blight. We need more logic, more order, more calculation, not more chaos. But Elder Vorlog, desperate beyond words, looked at her. His ancient eyes, usually so analytical and detached, now held a spark of something uncalculated, something that looked suspiciously like raw, unadulterated hope, possibly mixed with a tiny bit of panic. "Explain, human," he urged, his voice barely a whisper. "Anything, please. We are at the brink. Our logic is failing. Our very sanity is threatened by these singing potatoes." Kira smiled. It wasn't a logical smile, not a polite diplomatic gesture, but a warm, knowing,